Sarvajata Shri Srimad Shri Abhicharanam Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nama Acharya Shri Thakur Haridas ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद की गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगा देवी की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। ISKCON DVT संस्थापक आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदे all glories Sri Prabhuji, all glories Sri Prabhuji, all glories Sri Prabhuji, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Krishna
did you have some particular topic I should speak from? I don't know.
Anything you like.
Well, how can we resist this? Raise your hand if you have ever seen a more beautiful deity of Panchatattva. I don't know. Very, very nice deities. And especially when I look over here and see on the cover of this volume, it's kind of confirmed, isn't it? This is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila Volume 1. That sound good?
Yes, yes.
And shall I read from where the marker is up?
That's what Krishna Prem was reading this morning.
That's where you stopped at. We read it every morning.
Okay. So you don't mind if I bring you ahead a little bit?
That's fine, yeah, that's fine.
First, let us say, let's just invoke auspiciousness, and there's an easy way to do that because here in this Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a very beautiful Mangalacharana given here. And those who know can recite with me, otherwise I'll just recite. Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan Isham Ishavatarakan Tat Prakashamscha Tat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samyatam Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gaudodai Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tunuktamonudao Yadadvaitam Brahmopanishadi Dhatyatyaplisya Tanubha Ya Antatmaryami Purusha Sosyasyam Shavibhavah Shad Aishwarye Purno Yaiha Bhagavan Saswayamayam Na Chaitanyat Krishna Jagati Parathatvam Parameha Anarpita Charin Chirat Karniyavatirna Kalao Samarpayatamannatu Jyodarasam Sabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Jyuti Kadamba Sandipitaha Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuradavaha Shachinandanaha Radha Krishna Pranaya Vrakatir Hlarani Shaktirasmat Ekatmana Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bhedam Katao Tao Chaitanyakhyam Prakadamadhuna Yattadvayam Chaikyamaptam Radha Bhavas Jyuti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kitrishovanayayiva Swadjo Yenadbhuta Madhurima Kitrishovad Nadiyaha Saukyam Chasya Maranubhavataha Kitrisham Veti Lobhat Tat Bhavadhyas Samajina Shachi Garbhasindho Harinduho Sankarshana Karanato Yashayi Garbodhashayi Chakayobdhishayi Sheshascha Yasyam Shakalasa Nityanandakya Rama Sharanam Mamasto Mayatite Vyapi Vaikuntha Loke Purnaishwarye Shri Chaturvyuha Madhye Rupam Yasyodbhati Sankarshanabhyam Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Maya Bharata Janda Sanghashrayangah Shete Sakshat Karanam Bodhi Madhye Yasyaikanksha Shri Puman Adi Devas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Yasyam Shamsha Srila Garbodhashayi Yannabhyabjam Loka Sanghatanalam Lokasrashtu Sutika Dhamadhatus Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Yasyam Shamsha Paramatma Khilanam Poshta Vishnur Bhati Dugdabdhishayi Shoni Bharata Yatkala Sopyanantas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yasrijat Yadaha Tasyavatara Evayam Advaitacharyam Ishwaraha Advaitam Harana Advaitad Acharyam Bhakti Shamsanat Bhaktavataram Isham Tam Advaitacharyam Ashraye Panchatattva Krishnam Bhaktarupasvarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktasyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Jayatam Sarato Pangor Mama Mandamatir Gati Matsarvasa Padam Bhojao Radha Madanamo Mano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumatha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasana Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devao Prasthadibhi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasarasaram Jimam Shivatarasthitaha Varsham Venusvanair Gopir Gopinatha Shri Sunaha Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Translation, beginning with, there are some less than 20 texts here. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gaudiya to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separate themselves eternally. Now, these 2 transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Shachi Devi, just as the moon appeared from the ocean. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshana, Sheshnaga, and the Vishnus who lie in and the portions of his plenary portions. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, who is known as Sankarshana, in the midst of the Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudev, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. He possesses full opulences and resides in the Vaikuntha Loka, far beyond the material creation. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose partial representation called Karanodakashayi Vishnu, lying on the Karana ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of the illusory energy and the shelter of all the universes. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Rama, a partial part of whom is Gaurabodhakashayi Vishnu. From the navel of Gaurabodhakashayi Vishnu sprouts the lotus that is the birthplace of Brahma, the engineer of the universe. The stem of that lotus is the resting place of the multitude of planets. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose secondary part is the Vishnu lying in the ocean of milk. That Kshirodakashayi Vishnu is the super soul of all living entities and the maintainer of all the universes. Sheshanaga is his further subpart. Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore I take shelter of him. I offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. Anybody know who these are? Who is the devotee? Are you sure? Listen again. Well, let's listen to the Sanskrit, it makes it easier. Bhakta Rupa, Swarupakam, Bhaktavataram, Bhaktakhyam, Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. It's a little oblique, I'll admit. The devotee is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The devotional incarnation is Lord Nityananda Prabhu. The devotional manifestation is Advaita Acharya. Pure devotee Srivas. Devotional energy is Gadadhar, I think. You can check maybe if that verse is in this volume, I'm not sure. But then we move on. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madana Mohan. I'm lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath a desire tree, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Now in the temple, we can see this, because every day Radha Govinda come out for their swing pastime, Julanyata. You can see this verse is manifest every day. Sri Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the rasa dance, stands on the shore in Vamshivata and attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra. And glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Ki Jai. Any questions or comments so far? We haven't read very much from Srila Prabhupada's purports. Agatyeka gatim natva hinarthadhika sadhakam Sri Chaitanyam likhyatesya prema bhakti vedanyata. Let me first offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the ultimate goal of life, for one bereft of all possessions in this material world, and is the only meaning for one advancing in spiritual life. Thus, let me write about his magnificent, magnanimous contribution of devotional service in love of God. Report. A person in a conditioned stage of material existence is in an atmosphere of helplessness. But the conditioned soul, under the illusion of Maya, or the external energy, thinks that he is completely protected by his country, his society, friendship, and love, not knowing that at the time of death, none of these can save him. The laws of material nature are so strong that none of our material possessions can save us from the cruel hands of death. In the Bhagavad-gita 13:9, it is stated, Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dojano darshanam. One who is actually advancing must always consider the four principles of miserable life, namely birth, death, old age. Okay, so we know that much. One cannot be saved from all these miseries unless he takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore the only shelter for all conditioned souls. An intelligent person, therefore, does not put his faith in any material possessions, but completely takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a person is called a kinchana, or one who does not possess anything in this material world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also known as a kinchana gochara. Who called him that? A kinchana gochara. Tvam a kinchana gochara. Kisne kaha? Kunti did, exactly. That's in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Therefore, for the fully surrendered soul who has no material possessions on which to depend, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the only shelter. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let me offer glorification. He says, Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Tahar Charanashrita Shai Baradanya. Let me offer glorification to the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One who has taken shelter of his lotus feet is the most glorified person. In the beginning, this is Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami speaking. In the beginning, I have described the truth about the spiritual master. Now, I shall try to explain the Panchatattva we've already described. In the presence of the Panchatattva, what more auspicious topic can we discuss other than their glory, which is infinite? In the first chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, the author, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has described the initiator, spiritual master, and the instructor, spiritual master, in the verse beginning with the words, Vande Gurun, Isha Bhaktan, Isham, Ishavatarakan. In that verse, there are 6 transcendental subject matters, of which the truth regarding the spiritual master has already been described. Now, the author will describe the other 5 tattvas, or truths, namely Isha Tattva, the Supreme Lord, his expansion tattva, his incarnation tattva, his energy tattva, and his devotee tattva. Panchatattva vatirna chaitanyera shange panchatattva laya karem shankirtana range. These 5 tattvas incarnate with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus the Lord executes his Sankirtan movement with great pleasure. I want to save time and get to the explanation of this Panchatattvatmakam verse. But this one is just too good to pass up. You'll hear in a minute. Purport. In Srimad-Bhagavatam 11.5.32, there is the following statement regarding Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parashadam Yajnaihi sankirtana prayayar yajantihi sumedhasaha. In the age of Kali, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates by performance of Sankirtan Yajna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion. Plenary expansion. Who? Sri Nityananda Prabhu. His incarnation? Sri Advaita Prabhu. His internal potency? Sri Gadadhar Prabhu. And his marginal potency? Sri Vas. Only one left. Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura. As preachers of the Krishna Consciousness movement, we first offer our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting this Panchatattva mantra. Then we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Mahavadanyavatar, the most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. Thus, to derive the full benefit of the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. We must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva Mahamantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That will be very effective. Taking advantage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many unscrupulous devotees manufacture a Mahamantra of their own. Sometimes they sing, Bhajanitai Gaura Radhe Shyam Hare Krishna Hare Ram, or Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna Hare Rama Shri Radhe Govinda. We hear this in Vrindavan, next to our temple. There's such an ashram where they chant this. Actually, however, one should chant the names of the full Panchatattva. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura. And then the 16 words Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. But these unscrupulous, less intelligent men confuse the entire process. Of course, since they are also devotees, they can express their feelings in that way. But the method prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pure devotees is to first chant the full Panchatattva mantra and then chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Do you see why I didn't want to skip this purport? What does the purport consist of? Kam se kam 50%. Half of it is holy names only. This is successful preaching. He said his Guru Maharaj used to be pleased if he saw that a Bhakti-Vedanta, or what was their magazine? Shadjana Toshani or something like that. I forget what they called it. If it would have how many names, he would look and see. Or if there was a review, a scathing critic. But if he mentioned the holy name of Krishna so many times, Prabhupada said, very good. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur also. So Panchatattva eka vastu nahi kichu bhed, rasha shadane tabu vividha vibhed. Spiritually, there are no differences between these 5 tattvas, for they are on the transcendental platform. For on the transcendental platform, everything is absolute. Yet, there are also varieties in the spiritual world. And in order to taste these spiritual varieties, one should distinguish between them. Now, this is just a good point on which we can say one thing. How many of us have realized the oneness that exists, the transcendental oneness that exists among all the members of the Panchatattva? Raise your hand if you've realized this. Okay. How many of us have realized the transcendental distinction that exists among these members of the Panchatattva? Okay, one person has realized it. We offer our respectful obeisance and that. The point that I'm making is that generally in the conditioned stage, what we view as transcendental distinctions are actually not that transcendental. Because until we are transcendental, we cannot perceive transcendental distinctions. So what kind of distinctions do we perceive? Yeah, we perceive mundane distinctions. We're on that platform of mundane duality. Therefore, there's another purport, and I don't have it with me now, but it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada says, one should be very careful not to create an offensive situation and distinguish between the different forms of the Lord, when in fact, Advaitim Acchitam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Ityadi. Brahma Samhita says, they're all Advaitam. They're all non-different. We have to realize that spiritual non-difference only when we're solidly situated on that platform of spiritual realization. Because what it really means to realize spiritual non-difference is that you realize spirituality to begin with, as opposed to mundane duality that we're currently absorbed in. Therefore, once we come to that level of spiritual realization, which is called Brahma Bhuta Gyan, then we can talk of transcendental distinctions. Until that point, it's very dangerous territory. There are distinctions, they're visible even to us, but we have to be very, very careful. This is the point. All right, now we come to the main verse. Everyone knows this verse, so I will repeat, and you please kindly repeat line by line. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktahyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Let me offer my obeisances unto Lord Shri Krishna, who has manifested himself in 5 as a devotee, expansion of a devotee, incarnation of a devotee, pure devotee, and devotional energy. Purport. Sri Nityananda Prabhu is the immediate expansion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his brother. He is the personified spiritual bliss of Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Who is the personified spiritual bliss of Satchit Ananda Vigraha? That's right. Is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the personified bliss of Satchit Ananda Vigraha? How about Advaita? What about Gadadhar? Srivas? Some of you are doubtful. It's not a trick question. If you say yes, then the answer is correct. If you say no, the answer is also correct. But again, it's a question of realization. So it's like this. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when you have a green mango and when you have a red mango, is there any difference?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, it is.
Yes and no. This is the point. You're a smart girl. They're both mangoes. There's no difference. But the effect that one has when you eat it, it is opposite of the effect that the other one has, according to Ayurveda. So this is the logic we can get, at least. So spiritually, this is the next text. I'll just Panchatattva. Oh, you read this already. Sorry. I'll go on in the purport. His body, this is Nityananda, is transcendental and full of ecstasy in devotional service. What about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Advaita? You get the idea. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore called Bhakta Rupa, the form of a devotee, and Sri Nityananda Prabhu is called Bhakta Sarup, the expansion of a devotee. Sri Advaita Prabhu, the incarnation of a devotee, is Vishnu Tattva and belongs to the same category. There are also different types of bhaktas or devotees on the platforms of neutrality, servitude, friendship, parenthood, and conjugal love. Devotees like Sri Damodara, Sri Gadadhara, and Sri Ramananda are different energies. This confirms the Vedic sutra, Varasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. Where's that from? Anybody know their Shruti? Huh? Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Varasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate means it is heard that the Supreme actually has many, many different kinds of Shaktis. So all these bhakta subjects taken together constitute Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself. This is Achinta Vedade. We're talking about the Lord, who is the Supreme Lord, unquestionably. We stated that in the first verse. But he's a devotee. Now, what about the spiritual master? I just don't want to get too confusing here. Spiritual master is considered to be a Prakash Sarup of the Supreme Lord. Prakash is one kind of expansion of the Lord that's described in Bhagavad-gita, which I'm now editing. It's a difficult topic because the spiritual master is a jiva, but he's also the Lord at the same time. So he's God, but he's not God. At one and the same time. Or the deity. Deity is made out of what? Dwarkadishri. Everybody knows who's marble. Obvious. But is he really? You can see him as marble, but a dog sees him as marble. A human being only can see him as more than marble. There's something here in the human form of life, and what is that called? Dharnamasya hina pashubhisamana. It's called dharma. And what is the most, how I want to say, the quintessence of dharma is parodharma. And parodharma means devotional service. When we see in devotional service, we don't see that the deity is Jagannath. We have Ratha Yatra. Everybody knows he's made out of wood. But we don't see this. We don't see that Gaur-Nitai is metal or maybe mean. We don't see. We see Satchit Ananda Vigraha. This is the point. So just as the deity is Satchit Ananda, even though he's also wood, so the spiritual master is the deity, even though he's also a jiva. This is a Chinta Vedave. And here we're hearing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his incarnation, his expansion, his energy, his devotee, they're all the Supreme Lord. All at once. And individually also. And yet, some of them are devotees. All of them are devotees. You see? This is difficult. Therefore I said in the beginning, we must become first Brahman realized. And what is the easy way to say that you are Brahman realized? You know that you are not your body. This is the thing that Prabhupada is preaching practically more than anyone else. Where I live in Vrindavan, every single day there are multiple Srimad-Bhagavatam, Maha-Gyan Yajnas going on, Katha. Every day, many of them, at least half a dozen every single day in Vrindavan. But they never touch on this important lesson. Every time you will hear, it is talking about, Ras Leela or about the gopis, or sometimes they go into Makanchor Leela, or always Krishna Leela Vrindavane, Krishna Leela. You never ever find them talking about Puranjana Katha. Never find them talking about Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Even though 99, not 99, but 100% of the audience, practically speaking, this is what they need to hear. This is what sets Srila Prabhupada apart. I was talking with a godbrother this morning. Well, better yet, this morning Gaudiya Swami was talking about our departed godbrother, recently departed godbrother, Madhukrish Prabhu. And he mentioned, indirectly, he mentioned 5 wonderful qualities that this Prabhu manifested in his life. He tells a story where they were going to collect on the promise made by a potential life member. He promised, I'll become a life member. And, it's always a touchy thing when you go to collect. So they went to collect his payment. At that point, he said, I will not become a life member. Now, Madhudvisha Prabhu, as the senior man at that time, he didn't object, he didn't say anything, he didn't complain or point out, remind him that you promised and what's going on now. And instead, he just started to describe the activities of the Hare Krishna movement with his typical enthusiasm. He started to glorify the activities worldwide that ISKCON was performing, and just elaborating like this, and the man just out of nowhere, just on the spot, said, I want to become a member. Where do I sign? He knew. What did he have? What qualification does this indicate Madhudvisha Prabhu had? He knew what this person needed to hear in order to get over that hurdle. How did he know this? What is that quality called? Who knows? Think Bhagavad-gita 6, chapter 6, text 32, wherein Krishna identifies who is the best yogi. Shall I recite it for you? Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadiva dukham sa yogi paramo mata. What is his quality? He knows the pain and pleasure of another person. He knows what another person feels. Krishna says this is the best yogi. One who has empathy. Empathy. I felt a lack of empathy. I still lack empathy in my life. And I approached an older godbrother, Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, and asked him, where does this come from? It doesn't seem as if something you can practice, is it? How do you practice empathy? So I asked him. He just said it's a gift from God. It is a gift from God. It's mercy. So Madhudvisha Prabhu had this qualification. I don't want to repeat the lecture. You can hear it online. But several qualities he indirectly mentioned by discussing the context in which they manifested themselves practically. That is acarya. So, empathy was one, compassion. Remember the story? Those who were there or were compassion. I'm not going to explain it because I want you to go and listen to it. So compassion he had. And he had humility, great humility also. And he had great love for Srila Prabhupada, but also he was very personal with everyone, Madhudvisha. And he was exceedingly attached, if that's possible, to chanting the holy name very enthusiastically. He was a Prabhupada man through and through. These wonderful qualifications are there. So where did he get those qualities from? Was he sent here to associate, to help, to assist Srila Prabhupada? Perhaps. Perhaps he was. This is what Prabhupada had. These are the qualifications that Prabhupada had. And this is what set him apart from everyone else who would rather tell us about Krishna and the gopis and other things that are very, I call this infotainment in Vrindavan, infotainment. It's very entertaining, but it's not really very helpful. The audience goes back to their normal life, nothing happens. There's no change of heart because it's not the appropriate mix. What you need to hear at a certain time, nothing else can replace that. Just like, as I said earlier, when the mango is green, it's not going to work if what you need is a red mango. What will happen if you try to make amaras with green mangoes? what will happen if you put the very ripe mango into your chutney, or you try to make a pickle out of it? It doesn't work, you see. So, Sve Sve Adhikare Yanishtha Saguna Parikirtita. Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto, each person, according to his own adhikar, his own, I like to say, prerogative. That means what he's authorized to do, but only because it's what he's capable of doing. Adhikar has this sense that we don't have a word for it in English. You have to have equally sanction or authorization and the capability to fulfill that position. Sve Sve Adhikare Yanishtha. So one who stays in within his own adhikar, does not veer out of that. He doesn't attempt too much or too little. That person, that's called Saguna Parikirtana. That's praised as a good qualification. Right? When I was in college, they were teaching us how to teach. And they said, you aim just over the heads of your students. Just over their heads. Because if it's just over their head, it's within sight, they can think, if I rise to this, then I can get it. And it forces them to do this. If you would go way too high, it's over their heads, they're all lost. If you go too low, they get bored and check the watches and, you see? So, Sve Sve Adhikare Yanishtha Saguna. And Prabhupada, because of empathy, mainly, I would like to emphasize that quality, because Krishna does so in Bhagavad-gita. He says, this is the best yogi in my opinion. Generally, when we quote Bhagavad-gita, we say, who is the best yogi? Everybody knows that verse. End of chapter 6. Yoginam api sarvesham madhyate antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo. He says the person who is worshipping me with great faith, he is the best yogi. But here, earlier in the same chapter, he says the person who has empathy. It's not a contradiction. They're the same thing. When you are realized in Brahman realization, when you know you are not your body, you can understand how another person is conditioned. And therefore, thereby, I should say, you can understand how to deal with that person. And Srila Prabhupada had this ability. And later on in chapter 15 in the Bhagavad-gita also, Krishna is indirectly discussing this process in a few nice verses, wherein he says, well, I want to recite the whole chapter because it's so nice. But he says, Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimurha namu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. The person whose eyes are in knowledge, he sees how it is that I'm going from one body to another. He sees the trajectory of his own materialistic sojourn over many lifetimes. He's not hemmed into this one lifetime because of Brahman realization. He can see Trikala Jnana. He can see why I got the body that I'm in right now. He sees this. Raise your hand if you see this. Gaur Premananda, you sure? Because he knows things that we don't know. But he sees with the eyes of Shastra because he has realized what is the Shastra teaching, at least in terms of Atma-tattva, Atma-jnana, awareness of the self. When you know you're not your body, you can do this. That's why it's so important. So, Adhishtayam anashtayam vishayanupasya. I'm sorry, I'm backed up a little bit here. Vimudha nanu pashyanti. The person who is bewildered, or the fool. Because to be bewildered and to be a fool, they're the same thing, but not always the same thing. A person who is only immature can also be bewildered, even though he's not a fool. Right? And let us all hope that we're in that category. This is described at length by our acharyas. Offensive chanting is there, But when offensive chanting is due to one's immature condition, it's not considered to be offensive. At least not that offensive. But when one is mature and is still offensive, that's a problem. That's a problem. So we have to, you cannot stay in stasis forever. Krishna turns up the flame. Once you reach to a higher level of adhikar than you think you're capable of by divine grace, then he raises the bar again. And you have to shoot for another level of adhikar. You see? This is the dynamic nature of devotional service. It may be, how do I want to say, what's the word for this? Not frustrating, but, it discourages us. It makes us feel like this is hopeless in the beginning. But when we mature, when we advance beyond this wrestling that we have with the material energy in the neophyte stage of conditional existence, then it becomes ecstasy. And that is what he means when he says, Anandam Buddhi Vartanam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. An ever-increasing ocean of transcendental ecstasy. Krishna is never satisfied with what you're offering. In the beginning we think, oh my God, I might as well go and eat, right? Because our hearts are impure. But a person with a pure heart, he thinks, this is great. He's always going to be hungry. Let me make him something more to eat. Aniyor! Giriraj Govardhan. He's a big eater, right? Or we just had Rath Yatra. How many times a day does Jagannath eat?
64.
Huh?
64.
Basically, his fingers are never dry. This is the benediction that Narad Muni asked. My dear Lord, in this form, please bless us all that your fingers never stay dry. As soon as he washes his hands after prasadam, another meal comes. And he likes that. What is the verse? Nanopachara krita pujana martha bandho prem naiva bhakta hridayam subha vidrutam syat. Yavat kshudasti jathare jaradha pipasa tavat sukhaya bhavatu nanobhakshyate ye. The Lord's hunger and thirst commensurately increase in exact proportion that the devotee is desirous of the Lord to eat or to drink. If you want him to eat your offering, his hunger, he can't even wait for it to get on the plate. There are stories I've read in Brij Pasha literature that Krishna, Bal Mukunda Krishna, he crawls into the kitchen. Where's my offering? Or he steals the butter before it's even prepared. We know this from the Bhagavatam. Before the gopis can even make something with it, it's already gone. Because he wants that love that they have. He wants that. The other day a devotee brought some bhoga for the deity and said, I just made the easiest things that I could because this person is a busy professional. Some things are very hard to make. The ladies know. What are some very, very hard preparations to make? Very difficult. What do you?
Rasgulla.
Rasgulla? That's hard for some people. Anyway, there are many preparations. They're very complex. They're very involved. He likes those things more because it takes more effort from us. That's what he really wants. That's what he likes to eat. He doesn't need butter. He doesn't need sugar and milk. He has all these things. He created them. But the effort that we put into it, therefore this is my logic. I may be right or wrong about this. This is my personal opinion. But the more difficult the thing is, the more he likes it. Anyway, butter. We churn butter from milk, and it's a laborious process if you make butter properly. Nowadays we don't get real butter anymore. I mean, there's real food anymore, real water anymore, real air, real people. Nothing is real anymore, it seems. Everything's synthetic, but real butter, it's actually a little difficult to make. And that is why he likes it. So that's what we put into it. So all the butter that the gopis would churn, he would eat it before they could even do anything with it. So we may accumulate so much butter in life thinking what to do with this butter. And if we're very fortunate, Krishna will steal it from us. Therefore he says, Harishyeta dhanam shanai. Ooh, that hurts. Don't say dhanam. Right? That's what we're here for, isn't it? America. For a few more years, you'll be able to squeeze some money out of this place. It's on its way down, Zurur. You know, you have to move to China. Anybody ready to do that? And China owns Africa now, so maybe go there too. I don't know, but anyway, we can accumulate so much butter in life, but it's all going to be taken away, and that's why Prabhupada said earlier here, a devotee is a kinchana. A devotee has no possessions. If you think you've got possessions, you are vimudha. Naru pashyanti. You do not see the process. So to go back to these verses, he goes on to the next verse. Yatante yoginaschainam pashyanti atmani avasthitam yadanto apya kridatmano nainam pashyanti achedasaha. The yogi who is actually cultivating this knowledge and practicing and has developed these qualities that Madhudvisha Prabhu had, that Srila Prabhupada had, all other successful preachers had, like empathy especially. This is a natural, these qualities come through performing pure devotional service depending on the intention that we offer it with. So they come to this stage of Brahmabhuta Gyan, they develop knowledge and they can see everything very clearly. They see the trajectory of the samskars that have been developed over the course of many lifetimes, and they know how to deal with it in this lifetime before the big door slams shut and you lose your opportunity. Think about it. Dogs and cats. You know, the dogs here in Los Angeles, seems like everybody has a dog, and they take care, and but I saw the other day there was two dogs. One was coming from a driveway of a house in which he could not see what was happening on the street, and the other one was coming from the sidewalk. So they're like this, and they can't see that they're approaching each other, but one is walking a tiny, tiny dog, and one is walking a large dog, very big, mean-looking dog. So the dogs being dogs, once they came there, at the last second, they saw each other and, there's a situation here. So the big dog is immediately there, they're focused on each other and what's going to happen, right? And then I was just meditating on this and thinking, now, why don't people do this also? Actually, people do this. They do. They do this also. Ahara nidra bhaya maithunam cha. This is, in general terms, we can say eating, sleeping, mating, and defense, or security. Security concerns are a very big issue nowadays, isn't it? It's the defense principle. Because we're dogs. By default, we think like cats and dogs. And we're envious of each other, and we're competing over the same gross things, just like the cats and dogs. This mentality is there, and it has to change while we have the opportunity now. Maybe 50 years or so. Maybe tonight some of us will die. Do we really know? We don't. So this mentality has to change. But the idea here is that if a person is situated in knowledge, he can see, am I less dog-like now than I was in the last life? Am I going up or am I going down? It doesn't really matter what your assets are in this life, so don't be proud, because you don't know your trajectory. If you've got the best assets as a deva, but that's because you're coming down, that's not a very good qualification, isn't it? As we heard the other day, every saint has a past also, and every sinner has a future. So we may not have anything in this lifetime. There's one devotee whose name I won't mention, but has a very, very black past. But this person is so progressive and has actually developed such nice Vaishnava qualities I mean, that we all could be like that. We have to, to the degree that we develop this Brahma Bhuta Gyan, we will see like that. And that is the empathy that we're speaking of. That pure devotees, they have this. And then Krishna says, this is the best yogi. He can see. This is the point of these verses. Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. The person otherwise who's not cultivating it or who's only immature still, what is the word here? Nainam pashyanti achetasa. He's not conscious. Achetasa. He's unconscious. He can't see. So, now, I don't know how I got on this point, but we're kind of rambling far afield. We're talking about the mercy of the Panchatattva. I mean, by the beauty of Lord Chaitanya in this age, we become so much inspired. He defeats us. We're all kind of more or less demons in this age. That's the default in Kali Yuga. But by his beauty alone, he attracts us all. And when we take shelter of the Lord, specifically as the Sri Panchatattva mentioned here, by chanting Shri Krishna Chaitanya without considering our offenses, without considering our past, without even considering our future, if that's the wrong trajectory as we've prescribed. He gives us love of Godhead through chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, it's already been quoted here. Yajanti hi sumetasa. Those who are really smart in this age, they will worship this person while you can. Shri Panchatattva Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaudiya Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Any questions or comments? It's getting late, so I don't want to keep you all. Please.
Earlier you were saying that you couldn't find the word for adhikar in English. I think I have one.
Very good.
I think you meant like you have the right to do something.
Yeah, that's half of it, I mentioned. Prerogative is the word that I use, but prerogative means you have the right to do something, but it also means you have the ability to do that thing. This is the important thing. Because if we study the Varnashram system, for example, which everyone who belongs to ISKCON should actually do, since Srila Prabhupada told us to do so, then you will see that it's a very segregated society. It's kind of like, for those of us who are doctors, if you're in a hospital, you know it's a very stratified society in a hospital. Certain people, there are very clear boundaries where you can and cannot go, what you can and cannot do. I mean, it's I dare to say a quasi-smarta culture there. But the idea is that it's very similar, that we have to be sensitive to what it means to be infected by this germ of material existence. It's very subtle stuff. And just as we take what we call standard precautions in the hospital, washing your hands often with hot water and soap, and you all know the rules, I think, or at least he does. This is very important. And in Krishna consciousness, it's also like that. And the society is also organized in such a way that if one simply follows one's own prerogative, then he will advance, or she will advance. Therefore, Krishna says twice in Bhagavad-gita, what is it? Do not do another person's duty. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmad sanushtita. Do not attempt to do someone else's. You're a very smart young lady. Thank you for your nice comment. Anything else? No questions. We're all fully satisfied.
Prabhu, when you're in a peaceful material situation, we don't feel the urgency to go back to Godhead or to take to the shelter of Krishna. So what do we do in that situation?
You don't have to do anything except for wait, but you do have to hear and chant about Krishna while you're waiting.
But we don't have the same
Do you catch my drift? What are you waiting for here? Your situation is going to change. Therefore I said, you don't have to do anything. You're going to find zarur. You guaranteed you're going to find yourself in an overwhelming situation, and unless you have done your homework while it's peaceful, right now, by hearing and chanting in the good association, it is definite that you're going to be absolutely bewildered, and even your personality can change. Totally, I've seen it happen. A different person, same body. Sometimes even the body changes, and you can't believe it's the same person. So the karma is like that. We are on a tenuous lotus leaf, Shankaracharya says. Nalani dalagata jalamatitaram tadvat jivitam atishaya chapalam. This life is it's more tenuous than that. We think that everything is fine, as Prabhupada was describing. We depend on our society, our families, the persons we love, the money in the bank. There's so many things, but dhanani bhumaho. Your money is going to stay in the bank. Pashavashcha goshte. Your car will remain in the garage. Right? Nadi grihadware. Your wife, at the time of your funeral, she's allowed to come only as far as the gate. And then no further. That's the smriti. Janaha smashane. Your friends may come to your funeral if they're polite. Because who likes to go to funerals except out of social obligation? See? Dehaschitaya. Your body will go even farther than that. Where does your body go? Chitta. On the funeral pyre. Paraloka marge karnavano go gachati jiva eka. But when the jiva who has adopted the path of karma in this life, that is to say in this yuga, when he's adopted the path of vikarma in this life, he's going on alone. Nothing will go with you. So you have to be prepared for the solo flight by taking your flight simulation training right now, and that's why we suffer. Because Krishna is very kind to us. He gives us a little taste just to pinch us once in a while and to remind us that you don't belong here. Moreover, you've got to be ready for more of this, because it can't be as bad as death. Well, actually it can be. It really can be worse than death sometimes. Living. It can be worse than death. But the point is that we have to be ready for that, because it is coming. It is coming. Now what if it's already here? I'd like to quote Winston Churchill on this. Those who have heard my lectures before know what I'm going to say. If you're going through hell, keep going. That means you take tateno kampam susunukshamano punjana evatma kratam vipakam ityadi. The Bhagavad-gita says, you realize that I've cooked this thing, now I've got to eat it. Punjana means to eat. Yeah. Whatever you have cooked, you've got to eat it, and you just have to tolerate it. What to do? Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukadukada ityadi. Okay? Is that a satisfactory answer?
Yes.
Anything else? Okay. Light on questions tonight. We will. Okay, one more.
Prabhu, I don't know if my vision is correct, but we see like devotees in the past, they do a lot of service, and then they go in the background. You mentioned the point that Krishna raises the bar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then some people opt out at that point. Some people cash out on their investment. The real thing is that when you get returns, then you take those returns and reinvest them, right? That's a smart business policy. But sometimes people get the returns and they say, cool, I'm okay with this, and they just cash out. Or sometimes it gets a little bit tough and they get afraid, and then they just back off. Or sometimes they commit offenses and they become overwhelmed with material desires. There's so many ways to die. Any doctor knows. How many ways can you die? It's infinite. And in Krishna consciousness, there's also so many ways to either die or to, you just go into paralytic mode for some time, this happens. It's a pretty common thing, actually. Therefore, Krishna says, up front, he warns us, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatipisitaye. Of the very few out of many thousands who even try for this thing, how many people get perfection? One will. And of many such perfected beings, nobody knows me, Krishna says, practically speaking. You see, it's very rare. And we see in our own lives, with people that we know, people that we associate with, we can watch this thing happen. Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. This is the point that I was making earlier. When the empathy is there, when the knowledge is there, we can see it happening right in front of our noses. But when we are distracted by the glare of Maya, or when we're too covered over by our neophyte status, perhaps, or by offenses, or whatever it is that causes it, we can't see, even if we try to. There was one person I remember when I was in Seattle. Every Sunday they would come, and every single week they would ask the same question over and over and over again. It just didn't get in. Pashyanti ajnana, what is it? Nanu pashyanti achetasaha. You see? You have to practice this thing, and then it works. Is it answering your question?
Yeah, I'm just understanding how to see such devotees, like when they go in the background, they don't do the kind of service they used to do.
I mean, I can say from 40 years of experience, Lagbhag, that most of them are going to be like this. Most of the people that were very enthusiastic with me when I was a 15-year-old brahmachari, they're not here anymore. They're selling stocks in Chicago, or there's so many things they're doing instead. Or they've left the material world altogether, or they've left spiritual life altogether, or there's so many, like I said, there's so many ways to die. But the principle we should understand, if we commit offenses in devotional service, and one such offense against the holy name is to maintain material attachments, then, we don't really get the result. It takes a long, long time, and the danger of taking a long, long time is that we're so vulnerable in the meanwhile that we can be wiped out in a moment, just like that. I mentioned it. Like the drop of water on a lotus leaf. Everything may be fine now, but it's not going to be fine forever. Guaranteed. Is that okay? So, are you asking how to deal with such persons?
How to see them, like
you may not be able to see what's happening, at least not anytime soon, because as I'm saying, it's a fairly substantial spiritual achievement to actually come to the level of Brahmabhuta realization, and to have this much empathy to see the trajectory of any conditioned soul, including ourselves. Therefore, in the beginning, we do not judge. We do not judge. Parasvabhava karmani na prashamse na garhayat. That means we should not praise nor criticize the conditional nature of another person, nor should we either praise or criticize the conditional activities that person engages in, which follow from his condition or her conditional nature. We should be very careful, because devotional service is invisible. It's invisible because it pivots around personal motivation, and nobody can see that. A pujari is waving incense in front of the deity, and to us we get tremendous inspiration. Look how devoted. I should be so pure. But in the pujari's mind, he's thinking, everybody's looking at me because I'm the big pujari. Right? It's invisible. But we can't say that that's really going on or not. We don't know. It was there, and I happened to notice that in a far corner of this church, nobody would, in a very inconspicuous place, there was a man who was praying so ardently. I could not, I was transfixed just seeing the devotion manifested in the behavior of this man. It made such a huge impression on me that I've never forgotten it, even 20 years later. You see? This is the power of sadhana, and this is also the power of dharma. Because as long as a person follows dharma, other people will be inspired and you will not fall down. And hote, everybody will gradually advance. You see? Therefore Krishna says, Tasmat chastram pramanam te karya vijanataha. You should determine what is to be done and what is not to be done on the basis of the Smriti. Is that okay? So we may not be able to understand another person, but we can encourage that person. Okay, somebody else, you had a question.
Thank you for your service. A lot of information. I have a question about free will.
Okay.
If someone loses faith in themselves,
If someone loses faith
in his own mind,
okay.
and somehow develops faith in Lord's will, and he surrenders, like every day, like for years, he tells Krishna that I don't want my mind, and I don't want my heart, I will surrender to you, and you guide me. Does the Lord accept and guide him, or he still wants that person to exercise his free will?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question. It's a very, very good question, and it's a very, very subtle question. One way to answer the question is that Krishna, I want to say just on the basis of my own insights and perhaps my experience also, Krishna doesn't necessarily listen that much to what we say as much as he listens to what we actually want. In this material world, there's the unfortunate situation that what we say, what we want, and what we do are often three different things. There's a famous Hindi poet named Jai Shankar Prasad, and he wrote a famous book called Kamayani, which is very profound wisdom he had in that book. Anyway, he was saying that, I don't remember if it was in that book or in some other source, but he was saying that a person actually has to make all three of these things aligned. Your desire, your words, and your actions must all be the same thing. And that's really not very easy to do. It's really not easy to do. Now, having said that, sometimes Krishna, he listens to what we want more than what we say we want, because sometimes we don't even know what we want.
Since Lord knows every thought that we have, and he knows every act that we do.
Yeah, that's right.
Since he knows that, and he knows this person is really surrendering, he really doesn't have any desire to think for himself, for whatever major distress may be happening in his life, that he just doesn't want to make any decisions. He wants Lord to make the decision.
Yeah.
In that case, since Lord knows everything, in and out.
Yeah. Well, then I had a few other answers sitting ready, but now that you've kind of directed into a certain way, I'll follow through with this. In this case, we have to recognize what the Lord actually desires, because sometimes in addition to not knowing what we desire, we also don't know what the Lord desires. And even if we ask the Lord, the point is this: what the Lord desires, according to the Shastra, is bhakti. Because bhakti means unconditional, uninterrupted love, unmotivated love. That is the only thing that we actually possess, and that he doesn't possess.
Yes.
It's our sole power over him, but it is very powerful over him because he's very hungry, as I mentioned earlier. You see? So, given that the Lord is interested in bhakti only, therefore it doesn't matter what he wants all the time. Sometimes it also matters what you want. This is the beauty of bhakti.
You get so tired of life.
In a loving relationship of any sort, it is a 50-50 situation. And the devotee is as important as the Lord is from the Lord's perspective. From the devotee's perspective, only the Lord is important. And that's why we pray, whatever you want. But from the Lord's perspective, he says, no, whatever you want.
But what if you don't have any desire? We are so tired of the life. We don't have desire to live. We don't have any desire other than the Lord.
Yeah, what happens when we're jaded?
Then we want Lord desire.
There's a couple of answers to that one. We have to either look for the offense that brought us into that position, or we have to just wait until we're out of Saturn or Ketu or Rahu or whatever the malefic period is. Lay low and let it pass without trying to react or fight it, and it will pass. because all things do. Or, we can just make a concerted effort that I want Krishna, and here's what I would recommend. Every single one of us is attracted to Krishna consciousness for some reasons. We need to get in touch with those reasons very clearly. Clearly enough that we can articulate them in a prayer. And we need to focus on those reasons. Why is it that I love Krishna? Why is it that I'm attracted to Krishna or want to love Krishna? And cultivate that. And we will find that an attraction is budding. And when it does, we have something to work with. And that will bring us out of whatever it is about material existence that jades. A person can certainly become emotionally deadened. Intellectually, what do I want to say? Physically, intellectually, economically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And how many ways can a person become completely exhausted? It's possible. It is.
Does Krishna accept the surrender of free will for permanent, or he will not take the free will away?
No, free will is something that Krishna has invested in all jivas. That is what we are. It's inalienable. It is inalienable. So we have to do something. This is the point. He wants love, and love is a two-way street. The ball is in our court. And perhaps what Krishna wants to see is that we more seriously cultivate what I'm suggesting here. Is that, what is it that turns us on about Krishna, and how do I cultivate that such that I can actually move ahead? When he sees us hearing like that, then it's described. Shrinvatam sukatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridi antastho ki abhadrani vidhunoti. All the abhadra things that are within our hearts, he cleans them. He himself cleans them.
Yes.
When we're ardently hearing, and with this purpose to establish this loving relationship, then he cannot resist that. That's the point.
If someone falls so deeply in love that he just doesn't have any desires and he just wants Krishna to do everything for him, not everything for him, but guide him,
no, that's not really love. Because love, desire is another thing that is intrinsic within the soul. It goes along with the free will. Think about it. If you've got free will, well, what's the basis of that? How does that free will actually, kaise prakat karti hain? You get free will. How does it manifest? You see? It manifests in terms of our desires. And how do our desires manifest? They manifest in terms of our activities. You see? And all of these entail feelings and realizations and so many things. This is the beauty of bhakti. It's not static. It is ecstatic. And it's unique for every individual. This is a very, very deep question you've asked. It's a very good question. I commend you for asking such a sincere and profound question. Not every day we get such a nice question. But it's a very multifaceted one, and we could easily be here all night. And I don't want to keep people up
that's
too
why
much.
I'm not talking anymore, because I still have 2 minutes, but I had
We can sit together perhaps and take prasadam and
that would be nice. That would be very
discuss.
nice. I appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm going to end here. I thank you very much for listening patiently. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.